Minasan, konnichiwa. Welcome to our lesson today. The topic of the lesson 5 is about national holiday. As usual, before moving on to the new lesson, let's review and check the last lesson. In lesson 4, we have learned 7 structures. The first structure is how to ask for the time in Japanese. Look at your watch and tell me what time is it. 今何時ですか? The next structure is a polite verb, ます. The verb ます acts as predicative. It shows the politeness of the speaker to the listener. Have you learned all the verbs I gave you in lesson 4? In lesson today, we will continue to learn some other verbs. Let's take an example about verb ます. I study every day. How to say in Japanese? The correct answer is 私は毎日勉強します. Besides that, we have learned about the present, past, and future tense, and the negative sentence in both present and past tense, ます. If in present is ます, then the past tense will be ました. The negative sentence in present is ません, and in past is ませんでした. For example, 昨日学校へ行きませんでした. How is the verb in this sentence changed? The answer is, I didn't go to school yesterday. Another example. 毎朝6時に起きます. What does it mean? The answer is, I wake up at 6 o'clock every morning. So in this example, do you recognize which structure is used? The correct structure is doing what and where. The structure time nouns combined with ni and verb. When we want to say the moment of doing something, put the particle ni after the time nouns. Remember, ni is only used for actions that happen in a short time and also at exact time. It means we don't use ni for general time. However, in days of week we can use ni. The fifth structure is N1 から N2 まで. Do you remember the meaning of the way to use this structure? Let's see the example in here. 月曜日から金曜日まで働きます. It means I work from Monday to Friday. This structure means from N1 to N2. Kara expresses the starting time or point, and made expresses the destination or time. If I want to say Saturday and Sunday are holidays, how do you say in Japanese? The answer is 土曜日と日曜日は休みです. So the sixth structure we learned was N1 to N2, means N1 and N2. It is used to connect two words. And the last structure I want to remind you is ne. It shows the high expectations of the listener. Specific, it is to confer an information. For example, 毎日10時まで働きます. I work until 10 p.m. every day. To reply, we use 大変ですね, means that's tough. So we had resumed all the grammar part of lesson 4. Besides that, we also learned lots of vocabulary such as verbs, time, urgency, cardinal numbers, and days in week. Because our time is limited, I can't repeat all the lessons. Therefore, try to study hard and practice every day to improve your language skill. Next, let's move on to the lesson 5 today with the topic National Holidays. In this lesson, we will continue the vocabulary part about days, months, and structures. At the end of the lesson, You need to understand and remember all the vocabularies and structures. Besides, we also learn dialogue. First part is vocabulary. So how many subjects will be in this part? There are 5 subjects: verb, transport, nouns, time, and location. First, about the verb, there's only 3 verbs. Ikimasu, go. Kimasu, come. Kaerimasu, return. In transport, we have hikoki, airplane, fune, ship, densha, train, chikatetsu, subway, shinkansen, bullet train, basu, bus, takushi, taxi, jitensha, bicycle, aruite, walk, futsu, ordinary train, kyoko, train that bypasses, Tokyo, train that limited express. About person nouns, we have hito, person, tomodachi, friend, hitori, one person or alone, kazoku, family. Next is about days and week. First, senshu, last week, kongshu, this week, raishu, next week, sengetsu, last month, kongetsu, this month, raigetsu, next month, kyonen, last year, kotoshi, this year, rainen, next year, gatsu, month, nangatsu, what month, tsuitachi, first day, futsuka, second day, mikka, third day, yokka, fourth day, itsuka, fifth day, muika, sixth day, nanoka, seventh, yokka, eighth, kokonoka, ninth, tokka, 10th, yuyoka, 14th, hatsuka, 20th, nijuyokka, 24th, nichi, day, nannichi, what day, itsu, when, tsugi no, next. The last is about location. Gakko, school, eki, station, super, supermarket. So, now we have already finished the first part of the lesson. Lots of vocabularies, right? Do try your best to learn it. Next, let's move on to the grammar part. In Lesson 5, we will learn 6 structures, mostly about the uses of verbs. The first structure related to 3 verbs you have learned in the vocabulary above. Do you remember it? It is ikimasu, kimasu, kaerimasu. The structure form is ikimasu, kimasu, kaerimasu. It means to go and to return with noun. In here, noun is a location. Particle although it writes he, when pronouncing it, we have to say e. It has characteristics that are combined in sentence with verbs that indicate movement and stand after location noun. For example, I go to Tokyo, then I have Tokyo e ikimasu, or Nihongo e ikimashita means I came to Japan. How about I go home? The answer is 家へ帰ります. Remember that the particle へ is only used in sentences that indicate movement. If you want to ask about the location, then you have to say どこ to replace the noun. The particle and verb is preserved and attached with へ means go to, come to, where. So we have learned how to say I go to Tokyo or I go home. In case I want to say I don't go anywhere, it is どこも行きません。行きませんでした. Of course, the verb need to be in negative. Particle も in the above sentence replace へ is to completely negate the subject. Let's expand it a little more. I don't study anything. Then the sentence will be 私は何も勉強しません. Do you understand clearly about the role of particle も? To go, come, return, we will use the particle へ. So, for instance, how do we say to go, come, return by something? The answer is particle で. Transport nouns combined with particle で attached with three verbs. 行きます、来ます、帰ります means to go, come, return by noun. It shows us a way to move. For example, I go by train. Then I would say 私は電車で行きます. Or I came here by taxi. 私はタクシーで来ました. Notice that this is examples about using transportation. If go on foot, we don't use で. For example, I walked from the station to home. We would say 私は駅から歩いて帰ります. If we want to make a question about transport nouns, the question word will be 何. Replace the noun means go, come, return by what. The fourth structure is んとん means doing something with nouns. When doing something with an object, even with human or animal, we will use a particle と. For instance, 家族とフランスへ行きました. The one doing the action is me, and the last subject is family. That's why we say 家族と. This sentence means I went to France with my family. There's one thing you need to notice. That is the particle と. It is only used when doing something with an object. We can't use it when doing something alone. For example, I go to Japan alone. Then I have to say 一人で日本へ行きます. In this sentence, don't have と. To make a question for a person noun means go, come, return with who. The question word is 誰. But the particle と and the verb are not changed. Only put か at the end of the sentence. From the beginning of this part, we have learned some structures about time, but we haven't learned to ask about when, right? In the structure 5, I will introduce to you the question word that has the meaning of it. It is いつ. When using いつ, we don't use particle に. For example, I want to ask, when do you go to Japan? いつ日本へ行きますか? To answer this question, if we answer with specific time, such as the 3rd of March, I have to say 3月3日. If your answer has no specific time, then you don't have to answer with に. I will go on 3rd of March. 3月3日に行きます. The last structure you will learn is with よ. The word よ stands at the end of sentence to emphasize the information to the listener. For example, to emphasize the train go to Kyoto. この電車は京都へ行きますか? means, is this train go to Kyoto? We say, いえ、行きません。 Tsugi no futsu desu yo means no, it isn't the next ordinary train. So, I have introduced to you all 6 structures. It was easy, right? Next, to understand more about the context of each structure, let's practice in the dialogue. The situation is, Aki and Tanaka talk to each other to plan about their holiday. Aki asks Tanaka, Tanaka-kun, yasumi wa nani o shimasu ka? Tanaka, what will you do in your holiday? Tanaka answers, France de ikimasu, means I go to France. Aki say, so desu ka? Dare to ikimasu ka? Really? Who will you go with? Tanaka say, kazoku to ikimasu. I'll go with my family. Then Aki say, tanoshii desu ne. Nande ikimasu ka? That's fun. How do you get there? Tanaka say, hikoki de ikimasu yo. Aki-chan wa? By plane. What about you? Aki say, uchi de hon o yomimasu. I will stay at home and read book. Tanaka knows that she won't go anywhere in this holiday. Then he say, so desu ka? Present o katte agemasu yo. Oh, I will buy a present for you. Then Aki say, arigatou. Do you understand the dialogue? Let's practice again. Tanaka-kun, yasumi wa nani o shimasu ka? Franceへ行きます。そうですか。誰と行きますか？家族と行きます。楽しいですね。なんで行きますか？飛行機で行きますよ。あきちゃんはうちで本を読みます。そうですか。プレゼントを買ってあげますよ。ありがとう。Next is a culture corner. Can you guess what is so special about this part? Today I'm gonna give you a lovely Japanese song. Perhaps Japanese people heard this song at least once time. Its name is Okina Furitoke, means the old clock. Let's listen together. There are lots of Japanese songs that I want to introduce to you. Let's see in the following lesson. So, we have finished all of lesson 5 today. Let's resume it again. In vocabulary part, we have learned 5 subjects, and mainly about transportation and time. In verb, we learned 3 verbs, that is, ikimasu, kimasu, kaerimasu. It is easy to remember, right? In grammar part, we learned 6 structures. Each sentence have different particle with it. In here, remember the verb need to attach with de, mo, to. It is used for a different meaning. At the end of the lesson, let's learn about some culture and custom about Japan. A country has many holidays in a year. First is a New Year Day. The date of the Japanese New Year is based on the Chinese lunar calendar. However, 5 years later, Japanese adopted the Gregorian calendar, and the first day of January became the official and cultural New Year's Day in Japan. The second holiday is the coming of age, held on the second Monday of January. Seiji no Hi. It is held in order to congratulate and encourage all those who have reached the age of majority, 20 years old. Next is Japan Independence Day, Kengoku Kinen no Hi, the 20th of March. Next, Spring Equinox Day, Junbun no Hi. Next, Showa Day, the birthday of former Emperor Showa. Next is Constitution Day, Children's Day, Kodomo no Hi. Ocean Day, Umi no Hi. Next, Respect for the Aged Day, Autumn Equinox Day. Health and Sports Day, Culture Day, Labor Thanksgiving Day, the Imperial Birthday. If the holiday falls during the weekend, then it is observed on the following Monday. In Japan, there's a long holiday occur from 29th of April to 5th of May, called the Golden Week. Some companies even let their employees have a week-long holiday. So the culture corner about national holiday is ended. I hope after this part you will know more about Japanese culture. Thank you for your attention and see you in the next lesson. Goodbye.